Good evening everyone. Am I audible? So good evening everyone. Online people please tell. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So what we did in the last class? So what you wrote last? Buddhism split. So we haven't discussed about the split. You've done? उसके बारे में डिस्कस करा था कि क्या था कि न्याय मानना वैसे करना तो उसको पढ़ना है। तो देखिए हुआ क्या था, तो हमने इन द लास्ट क्लास वी डिस्कस्ड अबाउट महायाना एंड हीनयाना। So Buddhism got split into two in the last fourth Buddhist council, which was held at Kundalbana in Kashmir under the king Kanishka. So what happened? There were few monks, and some of the monks were in the favor that we will consider Buddha as God. So there are many religions in which the leader is considered as God. So the few monks they argued that we should not consider Buddha as God and we should consider Buddha as leader. Buddha himself also told that I am not God, I am leader. So it was the viewpoint of Buddha also. But King Kanishka wanted to make Buddha God. So he along with Vasumitra he went with Mahayana Buddhism and they made Mahayana Buddhism, and they made Maha means bigger or greater, weaker. And one of the other set of monks led by Ashwagosha, they went with Hinayana, lesser weaker, lesser weak. They said that Buddha is not God, Buddha is leader. So they decided to stick with the earlier teachings of Buddha. So Buddhism got split. Now there are few persons in Mahayana Buddhism, few monks associated with Mahayana Buddhism, whom we call Bodhisattvas. So we discussed about Bodhisattvas. So Bodhisattvas are people who delay their own nirvana in order to provide nirvana to other people. So these are Bodhisattvas. Fine. So there are few texts in Buddhism. I think we discussed about theory गाथा.
Important books.
Important books, तो एक दो बुक्स और हैं, उन बुक्स के बारे में लिखो। एक तो theory गाथा के बारे में लिखा, एक और है नित्ति पकरामा, नित्ति पकरामा, नित्ति पकरामा। So it is a Buddhist scripture. So they did not ask what is there in Niti Prakrama or Prakrama. Somewhere it is also there as Niti Prakrama. So Prakrama, Prakrama is same. So they will just ask, they will give you option or they will say in the statement that Niti Prakrama or Prakrama is related to which of the following religion: Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, and none of the above. So from there you have to select. So they know that each of the students will not be aware regarding these books, but they expect from you that if they have asked such question in preliminary examination, so they expect you must be aware about that book which they have given in options or in one of the questions. So there are many other texts in Buddhism. So you can write few of them. Divya Vadana. Book का नाम है इस दिव्य वदना सुवर्ण आवरण अवदना। दिव्य वदना सुवर्ण आवरण अवदना। here we have to analyze one catch. Many of the literature or most of the literature which end with Avadana, all those texts are Buddhist texts. So remember this thing. So this was all about Buddhism and Jainism, and we have also discussed about Mahayana Buddhism, Bodhisattvas. Have I given you names of few Bodhisattvas?
Yes, Patni.
Okay, Padmapani, okay, fine. So that was all about Buddhism. Now we will discuss about Mauryan Empire. So give the heading Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire. So if you want to write time periods, time period is from 321 to 187 BC. So you don't have to remember the time period of each king. Wherever time period is important, I will tell you, you have to remember only that time frame. Otherwise, you will get confused, and that time period is also not required for your exam perspective. So, to study Mauryan Empire, there are few sources, and UPSC many times has asked question on those sources. There are few books written by some of the historians or some canonical texts are there, so they ask question on those texts. So you have to remember those texts, and you have to also mention those texts whenever you are writing some answer. So they may ask you a question like throw a brief light on the literature of Mauryan Empire. So there you also have to quote those literature, but we are going to study now. So write down first one is sources. You can give the heading sources. Sources to study Mauryan Empire. So first source to study Mauryan Empire is Puranas. We also discussed Purana in Vedic age. So those Puranas also tell about Mauryan Empire. So Puranas give chronology of the kingdoms. So which king came first and who came after him. So that chronology, we came to know about that chronology from Puranas. So next book is Mudra Rakshasa. It was written by Vishakadatta. Mudra Rakshasa by Vishakadatta. So this book is a real story. This tells about how Chandragupta was placed as a king by whom? We discussed story yesterday in the previous class. Do you remember that story? There was a professor from
Chanakya.
Yes, Chanakya. So this story discusses about how Chandragupta was placed as king by Chandragupta was placed as king by Chanakya. So this story tells about that whole procedure. So write down next source. Mahavamsa and Deepavamsa. These are Ceylon chronicles. Ceylon, Ceylon is the old name of Sri Lanka. These are few Lankan books, Ceylon chronicles, and written in Pali language. So these books also tells about Mauryan Empire. Ashoka was having ties with kingdom of Ceylon. So next set of book, Kalpasutra. Kalpasutra. We have already discussed about this book in Jainism. Kalpasutra and Kalkacharya, if you can remember. So this Kalpa Sutra book also tells about Mauryan Empire. So this was written by a monk named Bhadra Babu. Kalpa Sutra by Bhadra Babu. So this book tells about the story of Chandragupta Maurya, his time period. This book tells that Chandragupta Maurya went to South India and he took Santhara there, and he was buried. His ashes were buried in a place called Chandragiri. So this is mentioned in this book. So you have to remember a few things about that particular book. Sometimes they tell you a book and at one place or one side they will give the name of book, and on the other hand they will give the options what is mentioned in that book. So you have to remember those things. That this book also mentions about Chandragupta Maurya. He took Santhara. This is mentioned in Kalpa Sutra. I talk about Kalpa Sutra. So Kalpa Sutra mentions about all these things. So next book is Paristha Parva. Paristha Parva. Paristha Parva. It was written by Hemchandra. Paristha Parva by Hemchandra. Again, it is also a Jain text. So here, one important thing to notice is that you have to also remember which are Jain texts and which are Buddhist texts. Although Paristha Parva tells us about Mauryan Empire, so we have also remember at the same time you have to remember that this book is related to Jainism. This same question can be asked in Jainism. So you have to link. So fine. Right. Next book. Indica. Yes. Good. Indica. INDICA. So this book is written by Megasthenes. We will discuss about Megasthenes also. Megasthenes. Megasthenes was a Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. So this book is very detailed book. This book tells about the administration of Chandragupta Maurya. It tells about the society, political life, and all the things prevalent at that time. It also tells that there was no slavery at that time. But it is not true, because slavery was always there in India, even in Indus Valley, then Vedic age, slavery was there. But condition of a slave was that good, he was not able to identify slaves. So slaves were treated equally. So there was there was not that kind of a discrimination in the society, which Megasthenes thought from which region he came. He came from Greek region, and in his country, the slaves were not treated with equally, or they were humiliated or they were discriminated. But in India, the situation was not like that. So he write in this book Indica that slavery was absent in India. So all this is not factually correct. So he also tells about economy of Chandragupta Maurya and his administration also. So this was all about. He also tells about a queen. He tells that in his book he tells that there is a kingdom, right of this thing. There is a kingdom named Pandya kingdom. So this Pandya kingdom is famous for pearl trade. Pandya, yes. Pandya. There is a kingdom named Pandya, and that kingdom is famous for pearl trade. And in that Pandya kingdom, there is a female queen, and her name is Rani Mangamal. So sometime this Rani Mangamal is also conferred the title of first queen of India, Rani Mangamal. So this question was asked in this year only. There was a EPFO exam 2 Sundays back. In EPFO exam, there was a question which of the following statement is correctly matched. So few of the statements were given there, and in one of the statement in front of a Pandya kingdom, it was mentioned famous for pearl trade. So that statement was correct. So you never know what they can ask. So they can go in the detail of few important books. Like Indica is very important book. So they can ask about its features or what is mentioned in India. So write down next book. Next book is Arth Shastra. A-R-T-H, Arth Shastra. So what is Artha?
Economics.
Economics, wealth. Arth means wealth. So this Arth Shastra was written by Kautilya, Vishnugupta or Chanakya. So we are talking about Chanakya. Chanakya only wrote this Arthashastra, and although its name is Arthashastra, but this book is not only about Artha or wealth. This book is very holistic book. This book tells about administration, politics, espionage, warfare or foreign relations, everything which is needed to govern a country is mentioned in this particular book. And it is said that the present government, Indian government's foreign policy is based on this book, Chanakya Niti. And this book is not easily available in the market. The इसी का some form is in the form of some summary of this Arthashastra book is in the form of Chanakya Niti. So that is not exact copy. So original copy is with the government of India. It is alleged, we don't know whether it is correct or not. So the government, foreign policy of the government is based on this book. So we don't know whether it is true or not, but there are rumors. So write down next source. So you can write numismatics. What is numismatics?
Numbers.
Study of coins. Numismatic means study of coins. So they used punched mark coin. Punched mark coins. So Mahajanpadas, we discussed about 16 Mahajanpadas. They introduced punched mark coins. So Gupta, Mauryan Empire also used the same coins, and coins were also called Krishpanas. So again, this is important. So they can give you a statement that Krishpana means which of the following, and in the options they can give you coins, and other options they can give like paintings, dance or songs. So you have to remember Krishpana matlab coins. So last one, write down Ashokan inscriptions. Ashokan inscriptions. देखो Ashokan inscription was of two types. So Ashoka was very, although in the initial phases he was very brutal king, but later on he became very polite, and he wanted to spread the message of Buddhism. And to spread the message of Buddhism and to aware the masses, he made few pillars, and on those pillars he inscribed few of the verses of Buddhism or related to Buddhism, like some moral precepts, like we don't have to do this thing, we have to do this thing, we have to respect elder. Like we see today, there are posters, kind of advertisement. Ashoka Village is also there in Delhi, Bengali. We will discuss about that also in architecture. So there were around 54,000 such periods during the time of Ashoka. But now only few are left. Most of the pillars are destroyed. So pillars contain few important information for the general masses. So this information was generally regarding ethics and general values. Even today also, we see if a government wants to portray some message on the bus stops. You can see presently also in Chandigarh, at every bus stop there is a logo of or advertisement of G20. So such kind of things were done by Ashoka. It was mostly regarding good values or moral precepts of Buddhism. And second one were rock edicts. So rock edicts were for administration purpose. So these are for administration purpose. Administration purpose, like if they want to collect some information regarding direction, measurement, they used to write on that information on rocks, so that if any of the government official visit that particular place, he is aware about the few information which will ease his work. So these were two: pillar inscription and rock inscription. We will discuss about this in detail. We will discuss the architecture of Mauryan Empire. So now we will restrict ourselves to only these sources. There can be other sources also. If there comes a question, if you come across such a fact in your book, whenever you are reading, you can add that book or any fact in your notes. So now we will discuss about the kings of Mauryan Empire. So give the heading. First king was Chandragupta Maurya. First king Chandragupta Maurya. So he was also the founder of Mauryan Empire. So you can also write the capital of Maurya Empire was Patliputra, and their language was Prakrit. Prakrit language. Mauryan Empire की बात कर रहे हैं. Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta Maurya was a founder and he was very great king of his time. So this is very well known fact that whenever first king comes, and for him one of the tedious tasks in front of him is to establish his empire. So it is not easy for a first king to do some great things, because he is busy in establishing his empire. So he is busy in consolidating his administration, collecting some revenue, and then do expansion. So was Chandragupta Maurya, and he was busy in fighting or in establishing his kingdom. So in right now in 305 BC, a Greek named Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus Nicator occupied northwestern frontier province of India. So I told you about, like, this was map of India, and here is Himalayan region, and from two sides or from three sides, India is covered by water. So only region to enter in India is this region, northwestern frontier province. So generally most of the outsiders who came to India to rule India, they came from this side. So the Chandragupta Maurya was living here in Patliputra, and this region was occupied by a person named Seleucus Nicator. So the time is around 305 BC. So what happened when Chandragupta Maurya came to know that northwestern province is occupied by a person named Seleucus Nicator? He took his army and he went to this place, northwestern frontier province, and the battle was fought. You need to go back. यहाँ सभी लोग जितने महंगे यहीं से आएंगे. पहले आप अलेक्जेंडर की बात करें.
तो अगर इसका ऑलरेडी वहाँ पे वो है एस्टैब्लिशमेंट है, तो फिर इसके एरिया से भी कैसे क्रॉस कर सकते हैं?
Actually, there was no standing army guarding this place. Presently, Indian government army is guarding this border, and this border is rugged topography. This region is desertic region, and it is not possible for people to guide this border 24/7. So intrusion happens from this region. So also this was not very productive region also. This region, desertic region, Afghanistan region, not productive region. So this area was neglected, and it was very expensive for a king living here to place standing army at this region. So that is why most of the attacks, we will see other attacks also, we will see some Indo-Greek separation tribes, they will come again from this route. Genghis Khan, Mongols, they will again come from this route. So if a king takes his army from this region to this region and start living here, then the kings, small kings from this region, they will occupy his capital. That was the reason. So what happened? Seleucus negated and Chandragupta Maurya went to this place and he fought a battle. So battle was fought. In that battle, Seleucus Nicator was defeated. And when Seleucus was defeated, they signed a treaty. And that treaty was treaty of friendship, and that friendship turned into matrimonial alliance. So Seleucus gave his daughter in marriage to Chandragupta Maurya. So now Seleucus was Sasurji of Chandragupta. So to impress his Sasur, Chandragupta Maurya gave 500 elephants as gift to Seleucus Nicator. Because he was having elephantry army, Magadha region, elephantry army, so he gave 500 elephants as a gift. Because Seleucus Nicator was shocked to see the army, and those elephants were trained. They knew how to fight. So trained elephants were very rare at that time. So now you can train dogs, horses, you can train any of the animal today. But at that time, trained elephant army was only with the Magadha Empire. That was one of the reasons that Alexander went back without attacking Magadha region, because he got frightened due to elephantry army. So there was a matrimonial alliance, and Seleucus said that one of my person or one of my ambassador will live in your court, and that person was Megasthenes. So he was ambassador of Seleucus Nicator. So he lived in the court of Chandragupta Maurya for around 7-8 years. He lived there. So in the end, Chandragupta Maurya got converted to Jainism. He became Jain, and he went to South India, or Shravan Belagola. He went to Shravan Belagola, and he took fast unto death. What do we call that fast in Jainism? What device? So we call that Samhara. He took Chandragupta Maurya to Samhara, and he nominated his son Bindusara as the next ruler. Chandragupta Maurya, that after me, my son Bindusara will become king. And there is a term for death in Jainism. What do we call that? Like Mahakevalya. So he went to Shravan Belagola, took Samhara, and attained Mahakevalya. So that was all about Chandragupta Maurya. And one important thing also, his prime minister was, who would be his prime minister? Chanakya. Chanakya was his prime minister.
Sir,
Yes.
we call take this sir.
क्या था?
That once that what is it called, sir? After taking Samhara, when
fine.
one was dead.
Okay, that is called as Mahakevalya. We have discussed it in Jainism. When you will revise, you will find it there also. Mahakevalya. Kevalya means moksha, and Mahakevalya means death, or the union of a jiva with the supreme soul. Jiva with the supreme soul. Mahakevalya. So that was all about Chandragupta Maurya. So now comes your next king. His name was Bindusara. So next king was Bindusara. Bindusara.
Sir, is time period?
Time period is not important. You don't have to remember the time periods. You just have to remember
Okay.
that Mauryan dynasty was from 321 to 187 BC. That I have dictated. So wherever time period is important, I will let you know. What you people have to do, you have to remember the sequence at some places. You have to remember the sequence. Who was father of Ashoka, who was first king, and who was last king. So you have to remember that sequence. You cannot remember. There will be number of kings. You cannot remember the time period of each king. So we will not
Yes.
do that. So Bindusara was next king, and there are no clear evidences about the rule of Bindusaras. Right, this point. Like, there is no clear evidence regarding the rule of Bindusara. And during his period, Chanakya retired and he left his court. Chanakya retired during his period, and after some time, some villagers came and they informed regarding the death of Chanakya. So Bindusara, keep writing, Bindusara donated 100 villages to Ajivikas. So we discussed about Ajivikas in the previous class. Can you tell who are Ajivikas? बताओ. बताओ ज्योति. आजीविका क्या होता है? खड़ा ध्यान नहीं रही.
Sir, it is set of childhood.
Yes, आगे. जून
So
के.
basically, they will even destiny.
Yes, they believed in destiny. Thus, only this you have to remember. So this information, जो मैंने बताया आपको villages वाली, this information has been recorded in Barabar cave. So this is your homework, where these Barabar caves are. So information regarding Bindusara, or that he donated some of the villages to Ajivikas. This information is recorded in Barabar cave. So you have to find that where Barabar cave is, and then you have to write in your notes. So now what happened during the time of Bindusara? See, king used to rule from the center. King was at his capital, like Modi ji is in Delhi. So if some state, like if Punjab says that we don't agree with Modi ji, we want our own country, we want our own land. Or some state like Haryana or some state like Tamil Nadu, they say that now we want to bifurcate from India and we want our own country. So such kind of a thing is termed as rebellion. So that kind of a rebellion was very common during the time of Bindusara. Today we suppress those demands by citing the text of constitution. We say that this is against the constitution, this is against unity and integrity of India. But at that time the concept of a state or a country was not that much strong. So these revolts were very often. So during the time of Bindusara there were revolts, and few of the revolts, two of the revolts are very important. So one was at Avanti and another one was at Gandhara. So ruler of Avanti and Gandhara, they said that we want to secede from the Magadha kingdom, or we want freedom. So Bindusara was having many sons, and first his eldest son, his name was Sushima. Eldest son was Sushima. And there was his fourth son, and his name was Ashoka. So Bindusara said to Sushima, you go to Avanti and suppress revolt in Avanti. And at the same time, he said to Ashoka, he told Ashoka that Ashoka, you go to Gandhara and there is a revolt or rebellion by the ruler of Gandhara and you have to suppress that revolt. So both of the brothers left from Patliputra and they went to their assigned territory. Now what happened? Sushima failed to suppress the revolt at Avanti, but Ashoka succeeded. So this uplifted the status of Ashoka. Although Sushima was elder, so legitimate next king was Sushima. But Ashoka suppressed the revolt at Gandhara. This gave the social status or social upliftment to Ashoka. Now what happened? Bindusara asked Ashoka, Ashoka, can you go to Avanti to suppress the revolt at Avanti also? Ashoka agreed and Ashoka went to Avanti and Ashoka suppressed the revolt at Avanti also. Now Ashoka became very popular after this because he was able to suppress the revolt at Gandhara as well as Avanti. So now Ashoka is all powerful and famous also, like Yogi today. So after this happening, Bindusara made Ashoka as governor of Gandhara. That now you will become governor of Gandhara and you will decide the affairs of Gandhara. So by doing this, Bindusara nominated his eldest son Sushima as the next ruler or his successor. So Bindusara said that after me, Sushima will become king. So by doing this, Bindusara died. So the moment Bindusara died, Sushima became king. So this is time period is around 272 BC. 272 BC, Sushima became king. Ashoka was governor of Gandhara region. So what happened? Sushima became king. So this was not well taken by who? बताओ. Ashoka. Ashoka का ईगो हट हो गया. Ashoka ने बोला कि I am most superior and I even suppressed the revolt where Sushima failed to suppress the revolt. So I am powerful. So I deserve to be king. But Sushima was eldest and the rule said that eldest son become king. So Sushima will continue as king. So in 272 BC, Ashoka killed Sushima. Ashoka killed his brother Sushima. And from 272 to 268 BC, there was eclipse. Or there was a vacuum in Mauryan Empire. From 272 to 268 BC, there was no king. Any of the king or any of the brother who dares to become king, Ashoka used to kill that person. So in this period of 4 years, Ashoka killed 99 of his brothers. Ashoka killed his 99 brothers. Very brutal king. But he left one king. His name was Tisya. Not king, one of his brothers. He left him. His name was Tisya. So now you will tell me why Ashoka did not kill Tisya.
Because he never wanted to be the king, or he was in support of Ashoka.
That can be one of the reasons, but the real reason was different from this reason. So all those 99, all of them never wanted to become king. Ashoka just frightened from them. Ashoka thought that when I will become king, they will plan and they will devise a strategy and they will kill me like I killed Sushima. So Ashoka को इस बात का डर था. So why Ashoka did not kill Tisya? This is because Tisya was his real brother. खून का रिश्ता. Tisya was his real brother, so he left Tisya and he killed the rest of his 99 brothers. So after doing this, in 268 BC, Ashoka became king. So Ashoka became king in 268 BC. So you can give heading Ashoka. 268 BC. You just have to remember this. Now, when Ashoka became king, write down few of the contemporary kingdoms. All those kingdoms who were contemporary to Ashoka. So first one was Satyaputras. Satyaputras in bracket you can write Maharashtra and Bengal. Contemporary of Ashoka. Then were Pandyas of Madurai.
What Satyaputra, sir?
Satyaputras. Bracket you can write Maharashtra and West Bengal. So their area was spread in Maharashtra and Bengal. Satyaputras. Second one was Pandyas of Madurai. Third one right, Cheras of Vajji, Cholas of Purayur, and or Kalinga kingdom, you can write Kalinga kingdom. Kingdom of Ceylon. Complete kingdom of
Kingdom was of
which kingdom?
Kalinga.
Kalinga kingdom of Odisha. See, when Ashoka became king, he just after becoming king, he took few titles. So also he had already killed his 99 brothers. So it made him infamous or brutal. So everyone got frightened from him because he is very brutal. He is very aggressive. The one who can kill his own brothers, he will never spare us. So all of the kingdoms and Ashoka. At that time, he also took few titles, and those titles were also frightening. Like he took the title. What was the title? Title name is Bheri Ghosha. Bheri Ghosha Ashoka. The meaning of Bheri Ghosha is the one who is involved in aggressive wars. Bheri Ghosha. Bheri Ghosha is the one who is involved in aggressive war. Second, he took the title of Kamasoka. Kamasoka, meaning the person who is involved in pleasure. Pleasure can be of any kind, sexual pleasure or pleasure taken from Madira, drinks. So he took such titles, and these titles again made him very infamous. So just after becoming king, yes, after becoming king, he sent invitations to contemporary kingdom. He sent invitations to contemporary kingdom, or invitations or threatenings, you can say particularly. He sent threatenings to many kingdoms that you please, all of you please surrender. If you won't surrender, I will attack you. And the moment I will attack you and I will destroy your kingdom and I will annex your kingdom and I will join your kingdom with my own kingdom. So seeing the brutality of Ashoka, all the contemporary kingdom, they surrendered. They said that yes, we are subordinate to you, you are our overlord. But there was one kingdom, kingdom of Kalinga, and it was ruled by a person named Anand Padmanabha. This person declined. This person said that no, I don't accept the overlordship of Ashoka. I am sovereign. I am not subordinate to Ashoka. And this thing hurt the ego of Ashoka. Ashoka का ego hurt हुआ. Now Ashoka said that I will destroy this kingdom. I will destroy Kalinga kingdom. And Ashoka started preparation for war. And you will be surprised to know that Ashoka prepared for almost 8 years. From 268 BC till 260 to 261 BC. Ashoka prepared for war. And in the end, there was war. So its time period is somewhat debated. At some of the sources, this Kalinga war is mentioned at 260 BC, and at some of the places it is mentioned at 261 BC. So, if any of the option is given, it is correct, and they will UPSC will never confuse you between these years. So, battle was happened. So, battle took place in 261 260 BC, and name of that battle was Kalinga battle or Kalinga war. And in this war, Ashoka defeated Ananda Padmanabha. And this was one of the largest battle of history, and this was the only battle fought by Ashoka. First and last battle. Ashoka never fought a battle with another king. He just killed his brothers, and then he prepared for 8 years to defeat Ananda Padmanabha. Between this period, Ashoka never fought with any of the kingdom. So Ashoka fought only once with Ananda Padmanabha, and it is said that in this war 1.5 lakh people died. So 1.5 lakh is very huge number, very huge number. क्या होगा? Someone asking something? So 1.5 lakh people died, and 1.5 lakh people at the population of that time. If you take the percentage will be very high because population was less at that time. So after the battle, it is said that there are again disputed. Some say that Ashoka was already a Buddhist when he attacked Kalinga kingdom. Some of the people say that, and some of the historians say that no, Ashoka was not Buddhist before this war. After this war, when he saw the pain, agony of the people, then he got converted to Buddhism. So we will follow what is accepted by the government of India, what is written in NCERT. So write down few of the facts. So by defeating Ananda Padmanabham, after defeating after defeating Ananda Padmanabham, Ashoka took the title of Chakravarti. आपने देखा होगा मूवी में बामुलाइजा, होशियार, खबरदार, चक्रवर्ती सम्राट. So Chakravarti means king of kings. One is king, then another one is king of kings. So he took the title of Chakravarti. And in 258 BC, he got converted to Buddhism. By a monk, Upagupta. In 258 BC, he got converted to Buddhism by a monk, Upagupta. Gupta. Now you will write down by your own. In 250 BC, he convened which Buddhist council? Third Buddhist council. Third Buddhist council. Write down third Buddhist council. In Patliputra, headed by Mogali or Mogaliputta Tissa. See, remember one thing, you have to remember or you have to learn these things at the same pace we are studying it in class. Otherwise, after classes, you will forget everything. You will forget all the stories. You will forget all the relations we discussed in class, and this will be a totally new story for you. So try to learn or try to do with the class. The moment we close one topic here, that becomes your moral responsibility to learn that topic or to understand that topic when you go in. So then only you will be able to remember. Now we will discuss after this. We will also discuss about Sangam literature, and in Sangam literature there are many tongue twisters. Tongue twister like you people will not be able to even pronounce that word, and in exam you have to remember that word. So be habitual and put some extra efforts. It will never be easy. It was never easy, and day by day it is becoming tougher. So he also declared his state as Buddhist state. He declared his state as Buddhist state. So Buddha said that he wanted to spread Dhamma. Buddha said that he wanted to spread Dhamma. So Dhamma was, remember one thing, Dhamma was not Buddhism. Dhamma was Dharma, what are right values. Right values like right knowledge, right faith, respect elders, love all, do not kill animals, do not eat animals, such kind of values. So we cannot attach those values to only Buddhism, because these are moral values. Every religion needs those values. So remember one thing, Buddha never wanted to spread Buddhism. Ashoka never wanted to spread Buddhism. Ashoka wanted to spread Dhamma. Ashoka wanted to spread Dhamma, and Dhamma contains some moral values like love all, equality, respect elder, do not eat animals, ahimsa, satya, such kind of things. Particularly yes, but Hinduism was also there, but the name Hindu was not used by them. They were Shaivites. Shiva is associated with Hinduism, but the word Hindu was not used by them. So like today also, we also say that Hinduism is not a religion. Sanatan Dharma is a religion. So we don't know the origin of Sanatan Dharma. We only know the religion of Hinduism. So that started somewhere in Gupta period. We will discuss that also. So there is one homework for you people. Write down in some separate page or in the back of your book. Then you will find that and will add that thing in your note. So write down 14 major rock edicts. So there are 14 major rock edicts. These rock edicts are associated with Ashoka. And in which state or in which country these rock edicts are located, and what is something special about those rock edicts. So you have to find that. And these rock edicts are one of the favorite question of UPSC. In every second or third year, there is a question from these rock edicts. So you will have to learn these rock edicts by heart. So,
sir, could you please repeat the homework once?
किसके बारे में? About
homework.
Homework is 14 major edicts. 14 major rock edicts. So we have discussed about Buddhist pillars. Pillars also. Rest we will discuss about pillars in architecture. So there was one of the kind of officials Ashoka appointed. What Ashoka did? Ashoka wanted to spread Dhamma, and to spread Dhamma, Ashoka appointed some officials, government officials. So the duty of those officials were to spread Dhamma. They were asked to go in the kingdoms and teach some good values. If they will teach good values to few of the people in the court of a king, and those few people will spread that knowledge among the masses. So this is called a downward filtration. So you will teach few, and those few will teach many of the other people. So those people who were given duty to spread Dhamma, they were called Dhamma Mahamatras. So two important Dhamma Mahamatras were Mahindra or Mahinder and Sanghamitra. So Mahinda and Sanghamitra. Mahinda was son of Ashoka, or Sanghamitra was she was daughter of Ashoka. So Ashoka sent his son and his daughter to spread Dhamma. Remember one thing. Ashoka sent them to spread Dhamma. But they were confused. They were confused between Dhamma and Buddha. Instead of spreading Dhamma, they spread Buddhism. Fine. Ashoka wanted to spread Dhamma, but Dhamma Mahamatra, they were confused. They didn't understand what Ashoka wanted, and they spread Buddhism. So that was all about Ashoka. After Ashoka, the kings were not that strong to keep the empire intact. So to keep the empire intact, the character of king is very important. Like in Congress party, there was a legacy of Congress. Congress was unbeatable party at one point of a time. But the successors who came after Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi particularly, they were not as strong as that of Indira Gandhi or Rajiv Gandhi. So the party disintegrated, their empire disintegrated. Like if Modi ji is presently, he is very strong administrator. He is holding his party in very close grip. So if tomorrow another leader comes which is not as strong as Modi ji, then BJP will also disintegrate. So another party will emerge. So this is the rule of nature. So after Ashoka, the new kings were not that much capable. So after him, another king came. His name was Kunal. He was grandson of Ashoka. So Kunal was incapable, drunkard. He was confusing. So after Ashoka, Kunal became king. So Kunal was incapable king. He was weak, and after him, many other successors also came. So those successors are not important for us. What is important for us is the last ruler. So last ruler was Brihadatta. So this Brihadatta was last ruler. So this is important. Last ruler was Brihadatta. And Brihadatta was again not that much capable. He was having one person as his minister, and his name was Pushyamitra Sunga. Pushyamitra Sunga was his minister. Pushyamitra Sunga only killed Brihadatta, and Maurya Empire came to end, and new dynasty started. So Maurya dynasty came to end, and new dynasty started. So we can give the heading of new dynasty as Shunga dynasty. Pushyamitra Shunga. So give the next heading as Shunga So write down before about Shunga dynasty. They were Brahmins and Sherites. Brahmin and Sherites. Founder was Pushyamitra Shunga. Their court language was Sanskrit. Very important. Their court language was Sanskrit. Court language was Sanskrit. Write one line also. That Besanagar inscription is related to Shungas. Besanagar inscription is related to Shungas. तो देखो Besanagar inscription is related to Shungas. So this year also there was a question on this Besanagar inscription, and I also discussed this question in I also repeated this in class. But the information what I dictated was not sufficient to answer this question. With the help of this information, the students were able to eliminate one option. But UPSC has changed its pattern now. So now what they are asking, how many of the following pairs are correct? Earlier they used to give some options, A, B, C. Then there were few codes, 1, 2, 3, or 1 or 3, 1 or 4 like this question comes. Then this is A option, B option, C option, or D option. So if there is a question, which of the following is a viral disease? And you know one of the disease like TB. TB is a bacterial disease. So you know that TB is a bacterial disease. So there are 2-3 groups given. So in all the options, TB is given. TB is given. And you don't know what this option is. What this option is. There will be any disease, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, polio. But you know only about TB. So question is, which of the following group contains only viral diseases? So about D option, there are 3 diseases mentioned, but you are not aware about any of the disease. But you are aware about TB. Now you know that TB is a bacterial disease. So this cannot be the correct answer because TB is a bacterial disease. Again, wherever there is TB, that option cannot be correct answer. So you can eliminate this also, you can eliminate this also, you can eliminate this also. So even if you are not aware about this option, you are able to eliminate 3 options. It means the only option which is left is now answer. So earlier it used to be the trend of UPSC. Now what UPSC does that if there is a question A, B, C, D like this. Now UPSC will ask how many of the following are viral disease. So they will give TB here, and they will give polio here, they will give another disease, they will give another disease. So you are aware that this is not the viral disease, or this is bacterial disease. So but this information is not sufficient to answer the question, because they are now asking that how many pairs or how many options are correct. They will give the statement which are how many of the following options are viral disease. So you have to be aware about this also, this also, this also, and this also. So you have to be aware about all the 4 options. Then only you can answer this question. So now UPSC is changing its pattern, and you have to do holistic study. You have to be careful about every option. So in one of the questions this year, Besanagar inscription was asked, and it was asked Besanagar inscription is related to which of the following god. So one of the pair was given, and it was asked that how many pairs are correctly matched. Earlier question used to be at one side they used to give something on this side and some factors on that side. So there was a code given, there were codes given. You have to match A1, B2, C3, D4 like this. You have to match. But now they already gave a table in a matched form, and then asked that how many options are correctly matched. So even if you know 3 options out of the 4, even then your information is not enough to answer. because you have to be aware about all the four options. So understand the difficulty or technicality of this exam. So based on the inscriptions related to Shunga dynasty, and add one line also, it is related to Vasudeva. It is related to Vasudeva, God Vasudeva, Lord Vasudeva. It is related to Lord Vasudeva. Fine. So give the heading of first king, Pushyamitra Shunga. Pushyamitra Shunga. He was scholar and made Sanskrit as his core language. And he was anti-Buddhist. Remember this thing, he was anti-Buddhist. So listen very carefully. Yes, he was anti-Buddhist, but he never broke any monastery. Despite being anti-Buddhist, he donated land to the Buddhism. So there was a statement in one of the exams in which it was mentioned that Pushyamitra Shunga broke many of the monasteries. So he never broke any of the monastery. Although he was not in favor of Buddhism, he promoted Hinduism. As he promoted Sanskrit, he promoted Shaivism, but he never killed monks, or he never applied any atrocities on the bhikshus, monks, or on any of the monasteries. So remember this thing. And there was one important scholar in his court. His name was Patanjali. So do you know who was Patanjali? Patanjali is also known as father of yoga. Father of yoga. So he wrote a book Yoga Sutras. Yoga Sutra. So in one of the class I asked the question that who is father of yoga? So one of the students said that Ramdev. So Ramdev is not the father. Yoga Sutra by Patanjali. So write down, he performed, not Patanjali, Pushyamitra Shunga performed 2 Ashwamedha Yajnas. So you people remember what is Ashwamedha Yajna? So he performed 2 Ashwamedha Yajnas. And he added gateway of Barhut Stupa. For the time being, just write about Barhut Stupa. What is Stupa? We will discuss in architecture. So where Barhut Stupa, you will find it out and will mention in your notes. So write down next, after him, next ruler, Agnimitra. Pushyamitra is son Agnimitra. So first that he shifted capital to Vidisha. Where is Vidisha? Vidisha is in MP. So he shifted capital to Vidisha. In the Agnimitra, he was hero in Kalidasa's play Malvika Agnimitra. Malvika Agnimitra is a play. That play is based upon the story of Agnimitra and Malvika. Kalidasa's play.
Kalidasa.
Kalidasa, yes. Kalidasa was a writer, poet, author. So he wrote a play. In that play, he was hero, Agnimitra. So this play is based on the true stories. So Malavika was a Shudra slave girl, and Agnimitra was king. So king fell in love with a Shudra slave girl, Malavika. And this drama, this play is about the love story of these two.
But wasn't he a ruler?
He was ruler, yes, Agnimitra.
So he used to perform plays as well.
The play was written by Kalidasa. Kalidasa wrote a play or drama, he wrote a play. And in that play, there was a character named Agnimitra and another character was Malavika. So these are real person, Malavika and Agnimitra. So there is a love story of Agnimitra and Malavika. You can just remember that Malavika was Shudra slave girl and Agnimitra fell in love with her, and they used to meet चुपके and all that was noticed by people. So उनकी love story famous हो गई. So the Kalidasa wrote a play on their love story. So that was all about Agnimitra, and you can write last ruler. The last ruler was Dev Bhumi. Dev Bhumi. And the Dev Bhumi was killed by his minister Vasudev Kanva. Vasudev Kanva. Kanva, and the new dynasty started. Chotuki dynasty is there. So new dynasty started. Kanva dynasty.
Dynasties and total. Three dynasties and total.
इसे तो मुझे भी याद नहीं है. Others. Kanva dynasty. कुछ छोटी है, बहुत छोटी है, ये भी बहुत छोटी है कन्वा. अब सिर्फ छोटी बची है, मौर्यज बढ़ेगी, आगे गुप्ता जाएगी, वो बढ़ेगी. So write down about Gupta, Kanvas. They were Brahmins and Shaivites. Brahmins and Shaivites. First ruler you can know, Vasudev Kanva. He was the greatest ruler of his dynasty, and he defeated Satavahanas. He defeated Satavahanas. He defeated Satavahanas. So write down last ruler. So these are not important dynasties. We have to study because mentioned in the syllabus. Last ruler was Sasaraman. 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 Weak ruler. During his period, Greeks from Bactria came to India and settled in northwestern frontier province. After his death, Greeks occupied the mainland. So the next heading, Indo-Greeks. Into please mute yourself. So I talk about Indo-Greeks. First foreign rulers of India. Capital was at Sakala, Sakala. Or Sialkot. Sialkot. Sial, Sial. Sialkot. Sialkot and Sakala are same. Sialkot is a province or a town in Pakistan. Sialkot. सियालकोट इज सेम, कुछ के चेंज भी हो गए हैं बट सियालकोट का नाम है. सो दे वर शेवाइट्स. Shivites, no clear evidence about their rule. Important ruler was Menander. You can give the heading of Menander. So only important ruler of this Indo-Greek we study is Menander. Menander or Milinda. So at some books, in some books you will find his name written as Menander, or in other books his name is written as Milinda. So he was the first king. He was the first king to introduce monetary value to the coins. Till now, coins were there, but they were not having any monetary values like people have today. It is mentioned in the particular note or coin that it is 10 rupee coin, so we know its value. But before Indo-Greeks or Menander, people were not aware about the value of that particular coin. So they were trading with the help of those coins, but they didn't know the value of that coin. So he was the person who introduced value to the coins, that this coin will mean this. And these coins were differently shaped, and they were having Roman numbers over them. And he also started giving gold coins to his subjects. If some person did the thing of bravery, or to some painter, to some artisan, he used to give gold coins. He was one of the first king to start such practice. So in the end, he got converted to. In the end, he got converted to Buddhism. He got converted to Buddhism by a monk named Nagasena. By a monk named Nagasena. See, you have to remember, Ashoka will be converted. Ashoka was converted by Upagupta. Now here Milinda is converted. Now again we will study another king. He will again be converted to Buddhism by one of the monks. ऐसा जरूरी नहीं था, but religion और जो monks थे, they were so influential that they thought कि अगर मोक्ष की प्राप्ति चाहिए हमें इसी religion में जाना पड़ेगा. Like people used to do today also. And at that time, Hinduism was at the declining stage. Most of the people, either they were Hindu or they were Buddhist or they were Jains. Or some of the people were practicing Shaivism. I told you about Shaivism culture. So their values were not that strengthened, like the values and rules of Buddhism and Jainism. So their rules were not that much strengthened. So they after that came Guptas. They consolidated the teachings, values, and all the things into Hinduism. So they introduced avatars. They introduced temples. Before during this period there was no temple. Temple worship is not there. Temple is not there. Guptas will introduce temples. So there after you will see there will come a bhakti movement. We will discuss about bhakti movement. In that bhakti movement, many saints will realize that Hinduism is at the verge of extinction. So there was a renaissance. So in that renaissance, few of the monks they came up and they started to renounce the ugly practices of Hinduism, discrimination. And many of the people who were discriminated in Hinduism, they got converted to Buddhism because there was no caste in Buddhism. Shudras, they got converted to Buddhism. Even Rajputs also got converted. So at one point of time, only Brahmins, most of the Brahmins were practicing Hinduism. So we will discuss about this also. So that understanding is important for your mains perspective. So Milinda got converted into Buddhism by a monk named Nagasena. So I used to learn this by MN. So sequence MN. So from M, Milinda, and say Nagasena. Like this we have to make shortcuts, otherwise you will be confused. You have to find your own ways to remember things. You will have to. So it's just the starting of history. When we will discuss about polity, economy, there will be number of facts. And this is the process, we have to follow this process. And in that process you have to relate things. You have to learn how to learn. You have to relate with some of your story. You can make your own shortcuts. So that is up to you. So I used to remember like this. So when Nagasena was convincing Milinda, Milinda was asking few of the questions from Nagasena. What for this thing in Buddhism and what if I do this? So they had a conversation. So all that conversation is recorded in a book, and the name of that book is Milinda Parbo. This question was also asked in this year's UPSC CSC examination. Milinda Parbo. You can also watch that video in YouTube. We have made that video discussion of this year's paper. So in that, although you have to watch all the subjects, but particularly history, I would expect you people, if you watch that video, you will see what we have already discussed in the class. That type of questions are asked in exam. You can watch that history question. So this question was also asked in exam. But in the exam, what UPSC did? UPSC changed this Sena by Arjuna. So in option, UPSC gave Nagarjuna. In place of Nagasena, UPSC gave Nagarjuna. So now it is disputed. At some of the places, Nagasena is also mentioned as Nagarjuna. But in most of the literature, only Nagasena is mentioned. Now it is up to UPSC, whether UPSC accepts this as Nagarjuna or Nagasena. But you people will wait till this final answer key of this year. Expected है कि UPSC will accept Nagasena only. Rest wait and watch. जब आंसर की आएगी then you will control. Indo-Greeks, he introduced, or you can give a separate heading. Then write impact of Indo-Greeks. Impact of Indo-Greeks. First, you can write in short form. First to introduce monetary value. You have also written. First to introduce monetary value to coins. And they were first to introduce image worship. इससे पहले इमेज वर्शिप नहीं होती थी जो आज हम करते हैं, like people do today. So he was the person who, or particularly he or Indo-Greeks, they introduced image worship. And first person जिसकी image बनाई गई थी, first person was Buddha, and first god was Shiva, whose image was made with the help of painting. They introduced Gandhara School of Arts. They introduced Gandhara School of Arts. It is a sculpture and statue making school. We will discuss about it in detail when we will discuss architecture. So right on next, they introduced Gregorian calendar. Gregorian calendar. It is solar calendar. It is a solar calendar. Right of solar calendar. Solar, SOLAR, solar calendar. And it has 12 zodiac signs, or it has 12 signs. The calendar we follow today, 1st Jan to 31st December, that calendar is Gregorian calendar. He introduced that calendar. So after his death, there was eclipse for many years. No one was ruling. There were few petty kingdoms, they were ruling. So after many years, new kingdom emerged. So new kingdom you can write. इसके बाद next आया जो new kingdom Shakas, SHAKAS, Shakas. And they were Central Asian tribe, and Shavites. So they were tribals, and they kept fighting with each other. They were fighting with each other, and they were excellent horsemen and warriors, skilled warriors.
Shakas was dynasty.
It was dynasty. And Shakas, it was a group of few kings, and they established themselves at 5 important places. So among that 5, only one was important, or one was super powerful. So we will discuss about only that one. But you will write all the 5 places from where Shakas ruled. So you can write the 5 groups of Shakas. One was at Afghanistan. Second one was at Peshawar. Third one was at Mathura. Fourth was at Girnar, Girnar. Girnar is in Gujarat. Fifth one was Upper Deccan. So Deccan is the region of southern India. So Upper Deccan, Maharashtra वाला जो region है, that is Upper Deccan. So among that you can round Girnar Shakas. Girnar Shakas were most powerful. So you can write Western Shakas separately. Western Shakas. So Western Shakas were superior to rest of the Shakas, and among that Western Shaka, one of the ruler is important for us. So we will discuss only about that ruler. So before writing that, write on that Girnar inscription, Girnar or Junagadh inscription is related to Shakas, or particularly Western Shakas. Western Shakas because they are in the west, Gujarat is in the west. So important ruler was Rudra So in Girnar inscription, information about Rudradaman is mentioned. And that inscription is written in chaste Sanskrit. Girnar inscription is written in chaste Sanskrit. And what is mentioned in that inscription is that Rudradaman was a powerful king and he repaired Sudarshana dam. So this question was also asked in one of the examination, that which of the following king repaired Sudarshana dam. So Sudarshana dam was repaired by Rudradaman, but it was made by a king. We discussed Chandragupta. Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya built a dam in Gujarat, Sudarshana dam. Sudarshana is lake also, and this dam was repaired by a person, Rudradaman. And he constructed a new city. And can you guess the name of that city? Try. इसी का नाम है दमन. Daman is city, Daman and Diu. That Daman city was constructed by Rudradaman. That Daman was constructed by Rudradaman. And he says that he defeated Satavahana rulers and entered into matrimonial alliance with the Satavahanas. So after him, weak rulers followed. Rulers were weak, and ultimately they assimilated with the Indian society and they became part of India. So that was all about Shakals. इसके बाद एक और किंगडम आता है, उनको बोलते हैं पहलवास एंड पार्थियंस. ये भी डायनेस्टी है, small dynasty, smallest, only one king is there. They were tribals of Persia. And Shavites. Tribals of Persia and Shavites. Yes? इनका बस एक इम्पॉर्टेंट रूल है, वो भी इम्पॉर्टेंट नहीं है, बस गोंडो फर्नेस. So during the time of Gondo furnace, Christianity entered India. Some of the people in South India, they were converted. So Christianity entered during this time. So that was all about Pahalwas, Parthians. Again after this period, eclipse occurred. So after Mauryans, literature is very limited. So literature is not available with us. So there is a literature about few years, then there is a gap of 200-300 years about which we don't know what happened there. So after Pahalwas, important kingdom came. So you will write about Kushans. So this is important. Kushans. Central Asian tribe and Shivites. clan. Their clan's name was Yuchi clan. The founder was Kajula Kadphises. Kajula Kadphises was founder. And Rabatak inscription is related to Kushans. Rabatak inscription is related to Kushans. So questions are important. So give the heading. First king, Kajula Kadphises. So first question is that why Kushans came to India? So in China there was a dynasty, Han dynasty. HAN, Han dynasty was there in China. So they started constructing Great Wall of China. So they were expanding. So they were expanding till Central Asian region. They were expanding. So Hans were barbarian. So everyone was skeptical about their motive that Hans can even kill them also. So they started coming toward the Indian region. So due to the fear of Han dynasty, they included in India. And in India at that time, no king or no strong king was ruling. So there was a vacuum in India also. So they were able to consolidate their empire. So with the heading Kajula Kadphises. So write down about Kajula. He defeated Peshawar Shakaz. He defeated Peshawar Shakaz and made it as his capital. Shakaz. He defeated Peshawar Shakaz and made Peshawar as his capital. He issued gold coins to his subjects. So gold coins of Kushans are very important. So once this question was asked regarding the gold coins of Kushans, so next write down, these gold coins were purest coins. Purest coins. Even today also there are gold ornaments, and many of the or most of the gold ornaments are made with the help of some other metals. And the gold coins till now or after this period will not be that pure as was in the case of Kajula Kadphises. So coin had the name and image of the ruler. Coin had the name and image of the ruler. So after him, next king came. His name was Bhima Kadphises. Bhima Kadphises. Kajula Kadphises and some Bhima Kadphises. So in Bhima Kadphises, there is only one thing to mention, that he issued largest number of gold coins. Largest number of gold coins. During this time period, he was the first ruler to issue large number of gold coins. So last king, his name was Kanishka. That Kanishka who convened the fourth Buddhist council is named Kanishka. So Kanishka was the greatest ruler. Just write down greatest ruler. Initially he was Shaivite. And later on he got converted to Buddhism by a monk, Kashyap Mathanga. So here again we will relate के कश्यप मतंगा कनिष्का। तो ये क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं स्टेटमेंट में। In 72 AD, that in short form, 72 AD, Fourth Buddhist Council, under the monk, बताओ, Ashwagosha and Vasumitra. Fourth Buddhist Council, 72 AD, under the monks Ashwagosha and Vasumitra, and he became Mahayana Buddhist. He became Mahayana Buddhist. Kanishka, yes, we studied that. He along with Vasumitra, and he sent Kashyap Mathanga to China. He sent Kashyap Mathanga to China to spread Buddhism there. And Kashyap Mathanga went to China, and in the court of a Chinese ruler, he spread Buddhism there. And due to this, a pact was signed between Kushans and Hans. So this is termed as Han-Kushan Pact. And when a pact is signed between two different kingdoms, there is trade. So there was a trade, and the trade started, and many of the commodities were taken from India towards China, and many of the commodities from China came towards India. And there was a route, particular one of the route was designed. So along that route, most traded commodity was silk, and that route today or after some time came to be known as Silk Route. So who was the precursor? Kushan and Han rulers, they gave way to the Silk Route. So whenever you are writing India and China partnership, you always start your answer with history. So in history, you can mention that India's and China's partnership is years old, that started from Han-Kushan Pact with the discovery of Silk Route, when the trade started. So he made, or he started Kanishka. We are talking about Kanishka only. Kanishka started new calendar or new era. New era, first I know new era, Shaka era. In 78 AD, Shaka era in 78 AD. So, आपने कैलेंडर पे देखना है अभी. In calendar, 2 years are written. So one is 2023, and there is another year. So the difference between those 2 years of 78 years. That era starts from 78 AD. So in that in normal calendar, if there are 78 years, or this year is 78 one, in Shaka era that will be 0 year. So there is a gap of 78 years in that calendar and Shaka calendar. So he also started that calendar. That calendar was lunar calendar, Shaka calendar only. He started Shaka calendar. Shaka calendar. That calendar is lunar calendar. This calendar is followed by Government of India. 1st April till 31st March. This is lunar calendar or Shaka calendar. Next item, he introduced Mathura School of Arts. He introduced Mathura School of Art. This was sculptor making school. making school, sculpture making school, and sculpture making school. Important point is that this school was secular school. Mathura school was secular in nature. Rest school were of Buddhist nature. They used to carve or paint only Buddhist scriptures, but this school was secular in nature. Mathura school of art. Next I don't. He introduced Kshatrapi system. Kshatrapi system. So, can anyone tell what is Kshatrapi system? So, Kshatrapi system is a system like even we follow it even today also. In this system, to govern whole empire, some governors are appointed in particular place. Consider India as an empire, someone as a king, and all the states as different states, and all those states are under one particular governor, and that governor is responsible to king, who is living in Delhi. So here that governor will collect revenue and will keep a part of revenue for himself and to maintain his army, and will send rest amount to the king. So this system is called Kshatrapi system. So Kushan was the first king to introduce this system, and later on this became necessity also, as it is very difficult to consolidate whole of the empire under one king. So we need governors at particular places so that administration is smooth. So next one is he introduced Devkula theory. He introduced Devkula theory and took the title of Devputra. So Devkula theory means worship of dead kings. Worship of dead kings. He said that all the kings who are now dead, they are to be worshipped. So this theory is termed as Devkula theories, and all the kings now are Devputras because their forefathers are being worshipped. So it means that they are Devputras. So he also started one other theory also. That theory is someone asked yes, bolo. अच्छा ये कौन है? Divine theory of kingship. Divine theory of kingship. So remember one thing, Devkula theory and divine theory of kingship is not same. There is a thin line of a difference between the two. Devkula theory means worship of dead kings. Divine theory of kingship means king as a god on the earth. King जो है, king is a god. King as a god or representative of God on the earth. He was the first king to introduce such kind of a theory, in which king is considered near to God or even God. So that was all about Kushana's one last ruler. After his death, weak successors followed. After the death of Kanishka. After the death of Kanishka, weak successors followed, and all were weak and incapable. And empire began to disintegrate during this period. Empire began to disintegrate, and last Kushan ruler was Vasudeva. Last Kushan ruler was Vasudeva. and he was killed by Shri Gupta in 320 AD. He was killed by Shri Gupta in 320 AD. So here Kushana Kanishka Empire ended and new dynasty started, that is Gupta dynasty. So about Gupta dynasty, this is a very diverse detail. We will discuss about in details Gupta dynasty. But before going to Gupta dynasty, in tomorrow's class, we will discuss about South India. What was happening in South India during the time when in India Kushan dynasty was there, or when Indus Valley civilization was there. So we will discuss about South India. So humble request from you people is that whatever we discuss in class, do go through that once, twice, thrice. Try to remember the difficult names in Buddhism, Jainism. Then only you people will be able to remember during the time of your exam. Otherwise, all will pile up, and in the end, you will leave ancient history, medieval history, and you will just focus on modern history. So don't take it lightly, because ancient and medieval history questions will give you edge. Modern history questions, everyone will attempt. So this is very dicey or disintegrated syllabus of ancient and medieval history. Sources are not available for ancient and medieval history. Even I have to do very deep research in finding notes to dictate to people. So for modern history, books are available or things are easily available. So that all people will attempt modern history question. If you want to take edge, you have to do the questions of ancient and medieval history correctly. Then you will come ahead of others. So remember, this is a competitive exam. So fine, we will stop here for today. Rest we will discuss it. Yes.
Sir, you didn't give any information about Maurya's administration, economy, polity, art and art.
See, actually, that is very factual part.
Okay.
Yeah, I will give you one homework. What you can do, that is also important for your prelims. In Mauryan Empire, there are divisions. Divisions like state is called by some name. Then there are districts. Then there are some other divisions. So to head every that state, there is a particular officer. So there is a name for that particular officer. So that is, although that is very factual part, and UPSC usually don't ask questions from that part. But if you are preparing for other exams also, so then in other exams that question can also come. So you people can do homework for that. In administration, if I give you the example of Gupta Empire, there are Guptis, Vishyapatis. So what you will have to do, then state, then district, then block. There is a particular terminology for this particular thing in Maurya Empire and in even Gupta Empire also. And in most of the empire, in Maratha Empire, again there is a different terminology. So you people can do, you can find for state, then for district, then for block, different name, and you will add those information in your notes, and that will help you in few of the exams. Generally, UPSC don't ask questions from such topics because this is very factual information, but question can be there. So we have to limit. What I can tell you here, I can give you broad framework. I can provide you skeleton. You have to put flesh on that skeleton. Fine. और कुछ पूछना है? बोलो. चलो फिर. That's all for today. Rest will be discussed tomorrow. Okay.